in the midst of trouble, you're never alone. Just draw on the strength of your community. It's really, really important. But, as you know, we're here now. We're still picking up the crumbs, to be honest, because imagine for those that were working from home and then now trying to do hybrid, go back to work, it's changed a lot. And we're still in it. Mental health well-being was a very, very key thing, like checking on each other, making sure that everyone is okay. It's not just about the work anymore. It's about the people.
Hello everyone, hope you're doing well, hope you're looking after yourselves. Welcome to another episode of the Student Guide, where we dive into topics, themes and areas of interest to you. Whether you are looking to learn a bit more about the creative industries and opportunities that you can get involved in there, whether you're looking more for career advice and personal professional development, whether you are looking to learn more about the idea of representation and what that means to you, and figuring out organizations and individuals that are actively working to increase diversity, equity, and inclusion in those areas. We've had a lot of great guest speakers on. We are slowly approaching the end of this season, so there may be a surprise at the end. Keep an eye out. But we've got another great guest speaker on. We're going to be talking about another great topic. But as I always say, I do not like to do the introductions for our guest speakers. I think it's best for you to hear from them. So instead, I'm going to hand over to Bami, our guest for today. Thank you for coming onto the show. Could we know a bit more about you and what you do?
Thank you very much, Jeffrey. Really lovely to be on with you today. Thanks so much. And thank you for all you do and in creating a platform where we are able to, raise our voice, create awareness about our respective, career fields, and just inspire others that may be looking to get into similar fields. So thank you very much for that. My name is Bamidele Farinre. I'm a chartered scientist, a Scrum Master. I'm a role model, I'm a mentor, and I'm a STEM ambassador. So I do kind of wear many hats. I think so. Very briefly, that's me in a nutshell. And then, you get to know more about me as we go along.
Perfect. Oh, thank you very much. We're going to dive straight into the first question. And the first question I've got up here is, could you please share your journey into getting into biomed and what sparked your interest to get into the field of STEM?
Thank you very much. I think we might have to do a journey down the memory lane. Absolutely. We need to go back a few years. Right from when I was young, actually, I wanted to be a pharmacist. And that's because I was surrounded in the community where I grew up. The healthcare infrastructure, it's not as great. And when it comes to treating people with ailments, diseases, infections, and things like that, you find that the first line is usually the pharmacist before they even say they're going to the hospital. So I've always had that, like, oh, I want to do this. And then I think what even made it more profound is the fact that in a specific community, I grew up in Nigeria before coming to the UK in my teenage years. You find that the community is usually served by one pharmacist. And you can imagine the pressure on the pharmacist. And so I said, I want to be a pharmacist. And so, I usually go around, I kind of speak to them to see like the kind of medicines they prescribe to people, like what kind of advice they give to them. And then also, but fast forward, when I did my A-levels, of course, I was already prepared. GCSEs was fine. And then come A-levels, the first year of A-levels, it wasn't stellar performance, as you would call it. So it didn't go as planned. And I remember then the lecturer that taught me, one of the lecturers that taught me biology, said to me, not that you failed, what's next? Maybe you just don't have the head for science. You should reconsider your career options. And of course, that broke me. I was literally in tears because, of course, I was already down and disappointed about my grades. And then to hear somebody that's meant to be a role model telling me that you don't have the head for science, go and reconsider your career options, not even trying to encourage me and say, look, it's not over. You can always go again. But I'm just so blessed for the friends that I had around me, family, and then I was able to re-enroll in college and of course go again, which and then so but then even having done that, when I finished college, of course it wasn't the grades still wasn't as good for me to do pharmacy. So I was then advised to go through clearing, that there's this course that I could do that I can still study pharmacy, but I have to do like some kind of entry level. So I was advised to do HND applied biology, which I did. Coincidentally, when I applied to do that, I had a callback, like a letter from Kingston University to come and do pharmacy. At that point, I think my mind just went out. I was like, maybe no, I don't want to do it. And then I'm sure it was just the universe aligning itself in my favor. And then it was just onwards from there, really. So did the HND applied biology, went on to do my biomedical science, and I can tell you, I excelled. Like, especially during the HND applied biology, was like, my goodness. So I still have it in me. I can do it. Just life just happened at that time. And then so I'm finishing, go into biomedical science, finish my training, qualifications, everything. Like I even did my master's. Um, I especially all the diplomas that we could do and specialized in virology. So so that was how I got into biomedical science. Before I was able to become to practice as a biomedical scientist, of course, I had to then work my way up. Started as a medical laboratory assistant without even knowing that, I still need a period of training in the lab before I could be state registered. So when you call registration, it's like, like the nurses and the doctors where they need a PIN to practice. Similarly for biomedical science as well, we're regulated by the HCPC. And then that's my journey in a nutshell. And then having now become a chartered biomedical scientist, now going even into tech space and being a qualified Scrum Master in Agile project management, I think it's a testimony in itself.
Thank you very much. And I think, as you mentioned through your story, we've always highlighted to people on the podcast that, sometimes you have to follow your passions. You have to follow your interests, even if, other people don't necessarily believe in you. And as you mentioned, sometimes not getting that support from teachers on your academic journey, especially, I think for a lot of university students, is something that they can relate to and sort of feel that there's sometimes that pressure. And if you're not sort of seeing that progress that you want to see, it can be quite disheartening. But as shown through your own story, perseverance always comes through when you're passionate and you're actively engaging to work to bring about essentially this your dreams. And if you know that there's an area that you're sort of called to be in and it's an area that you want to get involved in, it's always important to just keep following that passion and keep going through with
Absolutely.
it. So thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome. We're going to go on to the next question, which I think is a very important one, because we look back on this question. We look back to 2020, where we were all at home. We were all dealing with uncertainties of the pandemic. There were shortages on certain items, such as toilet roll. And we look back on that time, and it's very interesting to look back on and to see how the last 4 years have changed and the progressions that have happened. But I think it'll be really important to know, based on reading the bio of the work that you've done and a bit more about you on the website, I think it'd be really important to discuss what were some of the key challenges and achievements you encountered when leading initiatives during the COVID-19 pandemic.
I think the initial one was trying to lead a different life, get used to a new norm. Where, you said most people are working from home. I didn't get to work from home because you can call us frontline staff. So we have to be on site. There was no option at all to work from home. So that alone was challenging because, as you see, a lot was happening. Low staff morale, because at the end of the day, this is a profession we've chosen. You got to stay in it. This is the time where the nation needs us. In as much as you're thinking, we're putting our lives at risk, but we know that measures were in place to ensure that we are safe, and not necessarily putting ourselves into things that could put us in jeopardy. but putting that aside, we know that as a nation, I think we all came together because we then understood the importance of community. That look, this situation, this pandemic is affecting everyone. It affected us on different levels, but essentially all of us have been affected by it. There's been some positives, there've been some negatives. So being able to lead team, I clearly remember, I think just at the back end of 2020 going into 2021 was when I worked on a project with the Department of Health and Social Care on mobile labs where we had to deploy 14 mobile vans, to different areas within the UK. And can you imagine stepping into that role, not knowing what's going to happen, the training, the working with different stakeholders. It was really challenging, not because at that point in time, we just need to get something done. We're trying to get people tested as quickly as possible, so to reduce the spread of infection. So I think it had to do with that can-do mentality, the can-do mentality, resilience, because that goes a long way. And knowing fully well that one is not alone, having the support of everybody around, I think that made a lot of difference. I think one of the key challenges was just that trying to then recruit people, because everyone was scared for their lives, as you would imagine. Not everybody wants to be on the front line, but I have to commend the courage of people, the courage of my team, the courage of the management, the courage of the whole nation in coming together and saying, no, we are going to beat this. That speaks volumes, and for a leader, leading from the front, not from the back, for a leader, when you have the support, because what makes you a leader in the first place is the team, isn't it? When you have that support of your team, it goes a long way. It makes you're able to achieve the objective, the vision, when they have that buy-in, only because they believe in you that yes, you can take us through this. And that initiative was actually very successful. We were able to train like more than 130 biomedical workforce team. That's included medical laboratory assistants, associate practitioners, biomedical scientists, training officers, quality, quite a big team. That was a really big achievement. But one key thing is, in the midst of trouble, you're never alone. Just draw on the strength of your community. It's really really important. But as you know, we're here now, we're still picking up the crumbs, to be honest. Because imagine for those that were working from home and then now trying to do hybrid, go back to work, it's changed a lot. And yeah, we're still in it. Mental health well-being was a very, very key thing, like checking on each other, making sure that everyone is okay. It's not just about the work anymore, it's about the people. So yeah.
Thank you very much for that. And I think definitely, as you mentioned, people have said, whether it's work, whether it's even education, that there has been a significant shift. Particularly I know from people who sort of work in universities, they were mentioning that, even the way that students now socialize, for students who either the majority of their time at university or their A levels to sort of their first couple of years at university were all sort of within the pandemic. For a lot of them, they said that it's quite interesting because now you see that there are students that sort of struggle with sort of socializing and engaging with people because they didn't have that sort of activities or easily accessible activities as sort of there are now. But even people are saying now that things are a bit more relaxed and, things have thankfully gotten better. There's still that clear shift of you can sort of, I think someone that I know who's been working at university and experienced different students coming in and out, they were saying that you can still see sort of who attended university sort of mostly during the pandemic and who didn't, because of the way that they interact, the way that they speak to others, the way that they sometimes are carrying themselves, even sort of the way that they're used to working. You know, for some uni students, they were very, you know, as expected, some students prefer to watch lectures online, but they were saying even like people coming in person and sort of coming to lectures and feeling comfortable to ask questions and respond to lecturers. That's been something that people have felt that shift. But yes, I definitely agree. As you mentioned, it's great to hear that, all these initiatives that you're working on, you're still able to sort of make that change, promote incredible work, and continue, which actually links. So we're going to start off this next question with a mic check. As for our audience, a mic check is when we say an interesting fact or figure or story relevant to what we're discussing. And for this one, the fact is that we're speaking specifically for this one about engineers, but within the field of STEM, we will just highlight, diversity is not always there. There aren't a lot of, especially when it comes to higher positions, there are not always people from ethnic minority backgrounds or people of color in positions. So within the UK, so this fact is within the UK, only 8% of engineers are people of color, highlighting the important need that needs to be done to promote diversity and inclusion within the field of STEM. And you do incredible work. You do incredible work doing this. So we would like to lead this question. So this question essentially is based on that fact, and I'm sure you've got your own sort of experiences and the experiences of your colleagues and the people that you've worked with. How do you advocate for diversity and inclusion within the field of STEM? And how do you see, and what do you see the impact is from these efforts that you're making? So sort of a bit of a two-part question. And if you do need me to repeat the question, please let me know. But we're very excited to hear.
Yeah, that is an important fact, to be honest. There is no running away from that. The data is right in our face every day, and we're just trying to see what can we do. And individually and collectively, of course, everyone is trying to do their part in raising this awareness and ensuring that this is highlighted and what are we doing about it. To be honest with you, yes, the workforce is not representative at all of the people that are there. Do we want to say there is no talent out there? Definitely not. There is plenty of talent. And in as much as this speaks for everybody with regards to, access, but more profoundly is for people of color, ethnic minority. I refer to us as like underrepresented. And it is true, underrepresented. I think that it is definitely what really spurred me on, because I can tell you definitely when I started out in my career, I couldn't relate. I didn't know any single biomedical scientist. That I can tell you. I didn't. Did they exist? Of course. But I just didn't know any. And why did I know any? Because they were not visible. There were no visible role models at uni. There was no like single biomedical scientist that say, "Oh, I'm practicing here, I'm working here." Especially not one that looks like me anyway, or that I can relate to. It's not like I can't relate to anybody, but sometimes when you see like, okay, you know what, this is me, this is what I can do, because each of us are affected in different ways. Do you understand? Yeah, there is that multifactorial biases that's already, existing for us as women and men of color in STEM professions. And so diversity is really important. Sometimes when they think diversity is not a checklist, it's not a tick box, it's what should be happening, and then that's why. So I said, what, as an individual, rather than me complaining, because it's easy to complain, it's easy to moan, and we will continue to moan until we see changes. But I took that bold step up. You know what? We're going to do this. I didn't have a role model. I didn't have a mentor. I'm going to be one. So right from when I started in my career, even as a MLA, I found myself helping others. I just derived that sense. I mean, when you feel like there's a need and you want to be the one to meet that need. Yeah, yes, we're not going to change the world, but every single step that we take is a step in the right direction in making and seeing the change that we want to see. So I was intentional, so I became the diversity, that wasn't there. not knowing, of course, things were happening, but in the background, I didn't know about it. It was only when I started networking, meeting people, collaborating, then I started meeting like-minded people. I started meeting people, of course, that look like me, that are now in the biomedical science space. But for me, even to be a leader in the field, it was it was a journey, a challenging journey. That I can tell you, because when it comes to access, when it comes to resource, when it comes to support, yeah, it's not like they're not there, but you're having to fight for it. And this is real. You're having to literally fight for it. Why should you need to fight for something that is there, that is readily available? You understand? So for me, when we speak diversity, I don't want us to look at it as a tick box. It's not a cliche talk. Yeah, it's not. It isn't. And it's something that I would like really encourage all leaders. When you have a platform, when you have a stage, make use of it. Speak and advocate for those that cannot speak for themselves. You know, that you feel they're not. You'll be amazed. Yeah, we're speaking now. Some people, they cannot. Not because they don't want to, because of fear of, oh, what's going to happen. You know, what would happen if I speak. So I really encourage people, when you have the platform, do speak. And you are doing a great job, Jeffrey, seriously, because this is diversity speaking. You're not just bringing people of color. You're bringing everyone has an opinion. We're all unique in our way, and uniquely we have something different to offer, to bring to the table. I always say, if you're not at the table, you can't have a say. You cannot have a say. So it really matters. Bring us to the table. We've got so much to offer. If we're doing the same thing the same way every time and expecting a different result, that's not going to happen. There needs to be that shift. So it's really appalling that we're 8%. Imagine. Do you know how many graduates we have? How many engineer graduates? Do you know how many graduates we have in STEM alone? And we're talking 8%. Come on, what's going on? And we're losing talents as well. We're losing talent to other fields because they don't have access. They don't have that mentorship. There is just not enough. So can we say that educational institutions, are they not doing enough? Organizations across the nations, what are they doing to ensure that there's no exodus of these talents, going into, not even looking to pursue it as well, because they're thinking, I can't be bothered, something is not happening. Look, I can tell you, in biomedical science, for you to gain a place as a trainee, it's ridiculous. Can you imagine? There's only, let's say in an organization, in an NHS organization, there's only one training space available. Do you know how many applicants are there? Not just graduates that are applying, but even those that are already working. They've graduated for Lord knows how many years. Do you understand? And they're still looking to gain. And of course, at some point, they will give up. They will give up. So let's keep talking about diversity. It matters. We are all different in our own different way, but bringing a unique perspective to the table to make the world a better place.
Thank you very much. And I definitely agree. It is, well, first off, thank you very much for what you're saying about pick up the mic. We do, emphasize that as a point of what we do. Everyone's got a story to tell. Everyone deserves to essentially pick up their own mic and share their story and experience. But I definitely agree, as you mentioned, that it is very important to see that representation and to experience that you're not only, whichever field you're in, you're not the only person there experiencing those things or feeling those things, having those safe spaces where you can connect with, you can speak to, you can network with, you can build new friendships with people that you can relate to, or they can relate to your experience, is one of the most important things that people can do, whether as an organization or as an individual. And I think particularly when it comes to discussing something like diversity and equity and inclusion, where we're in a space where a lot of people feel as though that word is overused, or certain times people have said that certain policies or programs or schemes to promote diversity, equity and inclusion are sort of being reverted because 2020, not only with the pandemic, but there was also the murder of George Floyd. There was a lot of discussions around sort of representation as a whole, but particularly when it comes to being a Black person. But yeah, when there's a lot of talk of this, organization saying that, either they don't know where to start or reverting policies. The biggest thing that people have said is just starting with having that space, letting people just come, just talk about their experiences. It's a safe space. They feel, represented, that they can share their experiences, their stories, what they're going through, their pain points. Like you mentioned, getting mentorship, even getting reverse mentorship. So someone who's like new to the organization, mentoring someone that's been in the organization for a period of time. We discussed that in an earlier episode with someone called Afiba. And, she was saying that was really, being able to do that's been really great. So there's a lot of interesting, there's a lot of great ways to start. And a lot of these things are things that, you don't need to necessarily, give loads of money to, or, you're paying loads. A lot of these are free and simple initiatives that you can start within your organization, and just seeing that growth and that sort of connection with people can really go a long way.
Yeah, I think sometimes, people feel like, oh, you need a lot of, money to go in here, resources, time. Not necessarily. It's something that should be in place in the first place. You understand? To encourage, to motivate and develop your staff. You understand? So it's not something that you're looking to find a specific budget for. I mean, people might think, oh, you don't understand, you're not in the space, you know how it is and all that. But we know, because we that put the work in voluntarily. You understand? Which means it can be done, isn't it? It's just that intentionality, and just that making, ask your team, ask your staff members, what would they like to see and everything. And, don't make it like a one person job. It goes from the top to bottom, isn't it? Because when you're trying to do that from bottom up, it's harder. But when the representation is coming from top to bottom, it filters through, isn't it? The different systems within the organization.
100%. And you see when that filtering happens, that's when the biggest and long lasting change is able to occur. And you can really see that those, especially, at the time we're recording, graduations are happening in the UK.
Yeah.
And at a time when I think, I won't say I quoted this from like a report or anything like that, but I believe that someone was mentioning that it's interesting because now a lot more, especially when it comes to just young people in general, but a lot more people in general are more conscious of not necessarily going for employers that necessarily are big names in their industry or organizations that will necessarily pay the most. But they said that an important factor now more than before is that people are looking to see, what is this organization's policy on certain things? How are they working to promote, diversity, equity, and inclusion? How are they, giving people the opportunity to develop and grow? And they said that for a lot of people, this is playing a bigger impact on deciding where to work than necessarily salary is, than necessarily like the name of the company. Because they've said that there are small organizations that are doing incredible work, that are bringing in, they're getting sort of like employees and applications more so than, I guess, bigger organizations that could be considered their competitors for this exact same reason. Because people are saying that, within a small organization, I can see that they've got reverse mentoring, or they've, have a opportunity that everyone sort of within the team will come and just present. I think there was one organization, they did a funny thing that everyone in the organization, I think it was either weekly or monthly, they would come and present. They could do a presentation on any topic. So it could be anything, whether their favorite holiday, why they don't like a certain type of food or drink. And they said the whole aim wasn't necessarily just for the individual to sort of build their academic, to build their presentation skills and things like that. It was actually more so to do with just giving them that space away from work where they can just have a bit of fun. They can just relax. It's not, I'm thinking about, I'm going to be judged on this, or, because it's with work, I can't share my personal things. But it's actually just giving people the space to sort of discuss and learn about each other in a fun and innovative way. I think definitely, as you mentioned, that a lot of, I guess, like you mentioned, with graduation this week, a lot of graduates will be taking that into account. They'll be considering, well, what are your policies on certain things? What is the company doing? Even as we mentioned, like environmentally, that's another sort of big impact that young people are taking into account when applying for jobs, as well as not just young people in general. People as a whole are now being a bit more informed on how ethical and how sustainable organizations are. So yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
I think we're going to, for the next question, we always share advice, and we will, as our avid listeners and viewers will know, we have our takeaway section, which we'll get to in just a moment. But before we get there, I think it'd be really great to know, Bami, what advice would you give to students, regardless who are from diverse backgrounds, who are looking to pursue a career in biomed or any other STEM field? What would be advice that you would give to them? And I think it can be both generic advice, so whether they're sort of a first year, second year, or third year student. But I think also a bit of advice for our recent graduates, if there's anything in particular that you think that they should be aware of as they approach this time of employment.
Okay, I think we can take you from the first year student, like, well done on your first year on completing. And I'm sure it's come with a lot of challenges, moving from college and then into university, a new environment, new culture, new way of life, new way of learning. So well done on that. But okay, let's use this summertime to think about what's next, because second year is definitely going to be a little bit tougher than your first year. So prepare, of course, do have fun, but definitely be ready. Oh yeah, definitely, take that time out, put the books. I remember every year after this summer ends, the books I eye them away. Like immediately after exams, they're going away. Like, I don't want to see you. So you're permitted to do that. You need that break because you've been, studying nonstop and everything like that. For second year students, you're nearly there. Especially for second year and third year students. Because some degree are 3 years, some are 4 years. Yeah. So for those that are already halfway, well done. You're doing well. Do that stability and continue, persevere, because you're nearly there. And yes, enjoy your time off as well. If you have time to do work in the summertime, definitely do. But in that space of time, try to network, try to, find a mentor, find a role model that could prepare you for the next stage in your academics for the next coming year. And for those that are in the third year, on the fourth year, I mean, of course, those ones that are graduating, I would say congratulations on your graduation. And so take time. As well, mental health is really important. You need to refocus and, recalibrate for your next phase. So think about, what do I want to do? Where do I want to work? Some of you might even potentially have already started working. You've already got placement where you did your placement and then they're calling you back for work. So yeah, it's all about that culture. It's about you. Walk your unique journey. It doesn't mean it's going to be smooth ride. Some people do have smooth ride, some don't. Every journey is unique and is different. Just walk your own. Make sure that you have a community of support is really important, and know that you don't have to walk the journey alone. We're as human beings, we're not meant to be alone. We're not meant to walk the journey alone. You will be amazed that there's a lot of people in the world going through exactly the same thing that you're going through. Maybe not in the same stage in their life, but definitely they've been through it or they're going through it and they will go through it. So speak out. It's really important for you to speak out, seek support, seek help. And then for those, if you haven't found a job yet, definitely look into doing volunteering work. That's really important to reach out. If you haven't done up your LinkedIn page, if you're a social media person, definitely do that up and, seek advice from role models and mentors. And, for those that have already started out as well, like maybe you're starting your work, just keep calm, keep collected. I would say, look around your surrounding, who are the support system that you have in the organization where you're going to work, where you've started work, and do speak to people, make yourself visible. Take advantage of every opportunity. When I started out, you have to go for it. It's not offered to you on a platter of gold. Sometimes you really have to go in and take advantage of it. So I would advise that you take advantage of any opportunity. Volunteer yourself. I normally do that. Oh, we need somebody to do this. Even though I'm thinking, in my mind, don't think that it's always, sometimes you are bold. That's why you're going for opportunities, even when you're scared. Do it while you're scared. He said, feel discomfort in your, when you feel like you want to do something, that means then you're thinking, you're making the right choice. So that's what I would say. And network. I'm telling you, it makes a lot of difference. You'll be amazed when you hear other people's story. You will feel encouraged. You feel inspired. And then I think what else would I like to say last? Enjoy the journey. Enjoy it. If you want to journal your journey, do that. I've done that, a lot of times, and then I found that you're able to, look back and feel like, wow. And then that's the way you can think, okay, what could I have done differently? If somebody asks me, Bami, what would you have done differently? For now, I don't think I would want to change anything, because that journey was unique. That journey is what made me into, what I am today. Did I want to go through some of them? No, because they were tough times, but we're here still standing, be intentional. Be intentional. That's what I would say.
Well, thank you very much, and I definitely agree. I think, there's no much more. There's no much more I can say than that. I think, as you mentioned, just maximize every opportunity that you can, and make the most of what you can do. Mental health is really important to us at Pick Up the Mic, and we love to share resources that can support your mental health. And that's why we are so glad to have today's sponsor. Thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring this video. BetterHelp is the world's largest therapy service, and it's 100% online. With BetterHelp, you can tap into a network of over 30,000 licensed and experienced therapists who can help you with a wide range of issues. To get you started, you just answer a few questions about your needs and preferences in therapy. That way, BetterHelp can match you with the right therapist from their network. Then you can talk to your therapist however you feel comfortable, whether it's via text, chat, phone, or video call. You can message your therapist at any time and schedule live appointments when it's convenient for you. If your therapist isn't right for any reason, you can switch to a new therapist at no additional charge. With BetterHelp, you get the same professionalism and quality you expect from in-office therapy, but with a therapist who is custom-picked for you, more scheduling flexibility, and at an affordable price. Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/pickupthemic. I've also linked them down below in the description. So again, that's betterhelp.com/pickupthemic, MIC, and start your journey today. You can do. I think our final question before we go to passing the mic is, how as you mentioned, you carry many titles. You're a STEM ambassador, you're an IBMS mentor, you're a school governor, and essentially we would like to know, as an audience and as the host, based on all of these roles, how has this influenced your perspective on education and career development for young people?
I think being in this role is really opened my eyes. I was intentional when I went into this role. That was to make a difference. That was to change the status quo. Because you'd be amazed sometimes those that write the policies are not the ones that are actually using the policies. So sometimes it matters. Like, for example, take my role as a vice chair of IBMA's advisory specialist advisory panel. The reason for that is because, one, as a female, two, as a Black female, and as a leader in the space, I found like, okay, all the things that are happening, I need a space, a platform where I'm able to influence on issues that affect the way I practice. So as a result of that, I've been able to speak on, these are the issues that are affecting us. I'm not just speaking for myself. This is not just peculiar to me. It's for everybody within the profession. So I'm like a voice, for the profession. Of course, I might not be able to voice everybody's opinion, but for those that we're able to table, at least it's getting to the right place. I have that direct access, if you can put it that way. And I'm, using it, of course, positively to ensure that our voices are heard. things are being changed when it comes to the way we are being trained, when it comes to our, like for example, biomedical science. There's a portfolio that you go through. The Institute of Biomedical Science is our professional body, which if they actually direct on how we are trained, developed, and everything like that. So being in that space makes a lot of difference. I'm in the front line. I'm the one, like, that I'm in the lab. I can take, what is going on and let them know, look, this is what it is like. You understand? So that makes a lot. And when I'm a T-level educator as well, you could put it that way. So what that involves means that I do like webinars and talk workshop to T-level educators that are directly educating, people, students, and that are preparing them for their careers. So just letting them know about opportunities that are available, the different routes, because sometimes they may not be aware. And this is why we're there. We've walked the journey. We can let them know these are the opportunities, these are the different areas that are available that you can walk through. Being a school governor as well, where we're able to influence how things are done in the school, STEM related. So as a school governor, they've placed me because of my experience and expertise in the STEM area. So I'm able to inform them of activities, that they can do within the school that will encourage and educate the children, in their journey. So I think these are the ways. And I would say on this note that if you have the time, do volunteer, see how you can help. When you're a STEM ambassador, it doesn't take a lot of your time. You get to choose how many hours you put in and things like that, because of course they'll understand we're volunteering our time, so, but you just never know whose life you can impact. I've been into schools where, because as a result of that, some students are saying they're going to pursue biomedical science. It's not just biomedical science. Oh, they're considering science because you've explained it to them that science is for everyone. It's not just for the brainy, because when you think science, everyone is like, oh, you must be super intelligent, for you to want to do that. So, that's all I would say. And I think it does make a lot of difference. I know some people might say, oh, what's the point? They're not going to listen. No, you keep saying it because you just never know on whose table, that report is going to land, and they're going to make that change that you've been longing to see. It's like planting a seed, really. Yeah, it's like planting a seed. Eventually, you will see the fruit.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I think it's really, as you mentioned, it's really important to note that you never know what the works that you're doing today will produce tomorrow. So it's always important to just, as you mentioned, keep on going, keep on seeking those opportunities. We have shared different, especially when it comes to sort of being a STEM ambassador, we've shared that there are many different opportunities for you to get involved in. There's organizations such as the Royal Institute, STEM Learning, it's amazing. There's a lot of STEM organizations that do a lot of work, and especially if you, as an individual, you have a unique perspective with STEM. I know from being a STEM ambassador myself when I was at Brunel, it was really interesting what the people that had, hearing everyone's stories about how they got into STEM was really interesting. But for a lot of students, where they were hearing from people that, maybe they didn't necessarily have the best grades, they didn't necessarily have the best experience at secondary school or at sixth form or college. And they were saying that, STEM wasn't what they wanted to go into, but they got into it a bit later on. Having that sort of shared experience, had the biggest impact. And that's what our sort of team manager was saying, that she said, please do share that if you had the best time at school getting into STEM, or if you had the worst time getting into STEM, please do share it with the students. Not because you want to, you're selling the university or you're selling, STEM as a subject, but she was saying it's important for them to know that there are other people that are going through the same things, that other people, if they're finding maths really hard, but they really like maybe a certain aspect of physics, to know that there are other people, there are people who've gone on to do STEM subjects, and, are enjoying what they're doing. That's the most important thing.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
No, thank you. Thank you.
So we're now going to go on to passing the mic, where I will obviously not be physically passing the mic, but instead I will be swapping roles. So I will be allowing Bami to ask me some questions, or a question. So yes, over to you, Bami.
Thank you. I've been itching to do this. I think the first thing that I want to know is really pick up the mic. Where did that come from? How did you come about it? And how have you been finding it for the years that you've been doing it?
So Pick Up the Mic started out as a university. Well, it started out when I was at university. So as you mentioned with 2020, in 2020 I was at my, so I was in my, just coming back from my final year. I just finished my placement year after my second year. And for a lot of people, as I mentioned, 2020 was a heavy year. And they had a position called it was called the BME officer at the time. So Black Minority Ethnic Officer, within our student union. And I campaigned to sort of get this position. I was talking about the importance of students knowing about the resources that are currently available to them at university, but also once they graduate as well. Emphasizing the point that a lot of these resources are either free or especially when they're at university, they're free. But they're also resources that they can use to sort of like get involved and sort of come out of university with more than just their degree. And it was interesting to see that a lot of students didn't necessarily know about some of these opportunities. They didn't know about sort of how to get involved with them. For some people, they were concerned about sort of like how they would be seen using them. But also I wanted to sort of emphasize the point of sort of collaborating and working with sort of like a lot of more smaller organizations for when it came to sort of using placements. For doing placements and things like that. So then, got to October 2020, and I didn't get the position. But I was basically, from all the conversations that I was having with people, because we couldn't campaign in person, as I mentioned, we were still in COVID restrictions. So we had to do all our campaigning online and through group chats and through Instagram and marketing online. And I think the key thing that I sort of learned from all of that was, for a lot of students, there were a lot of things there are a lot of resources at Brunel that they didn't necessarily know about. So originally, Pick Up the Mic was going to be a like online Zoom meeting that people could come. It would just be sort of like people would come, they'd hear people talk, and then they would just leave. But it basically was coming towards the first like session we were going to do, and we just felt as though. So myself and my two friends who helped me to campaign, we just felt as though it didn't feel sort of right to do. We knew as students we were a bit tired of doing Zoom meetings because we felt that, our lectures are on Zoom, catching up with friends was on Zoom. Speaking to family was on Zoom. So we said that a lot of people were probably tired of online meetings, but instead thought maybe doing a podcast would be really interesting. So this podcast was the sort of what came from that. So when we started, we didn't have a name for this podcast. It was just called Pick Up the Mic. And it started out as just one podcast. And then as the years went on, we sort of started to add a few more things. We had additional content that we were doing in it as well as this podcast. And then it was around, I think, March or February last year that we got to a stage where we thought, well, based on all the work that we're doing, a lot of these podcasts or a lot of this additional content we're creating could technically be considered their own podcast. So instead we moved ourselves from being a podcast, like one podcast with loads of additional content, to a singular podcast network. So an independent podcast network. And we said that we've got different content. We cover 4 key areas of, personal and professional development, entertainment and pop culture, entrepreneurship and business, as well as like living on campus and sort of how campus culture is. And we said with those 4 areas, we give our audience, which is typically students and young people, an in so that they can learn about these resources. But we also allow sort of other organizations and individuals to get involved in the stuff that we do. So whether for the entrepreneurship and business one, if they are a business founder or if they are a freelancer, they can get involved in that. If they are an individual that's very passionate about sustainability through our collaboration with Brunel's Environmental Science Society, they can also get involved with that as well. So we've got a few different podcasts that we do that mean that our content isn't only just for students and young people. They can sometimes be for a bit of a wider audience or have a particular themed audience that comes with them as well.
So how do you feel like, I think this one is like a all-rounder question, the impact that you've had? I want you to be able to tell me, do you feel like you've impacted many. I mean, I know definitely you have, but sometimes, sometimes you might not feel it. You might like, oh yeah, we're just doing our thing, that sort of thing like that. So what do you think, what impact, and where do you see pick up the mic in the next like 2-3 years, even 5 years? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I think, as you mentioned, we don't, or at least for myself, I don't always sometimes see the impact that we do. But I think the most recent, there's in general, the biggest impact that we see is when we're able to sort of introduce, so myself as an individual, I love connecting people together. So when I'm able to introduce different people to each other, if someone's looking for someone to collaborate with on an event, or I know that two people work in a similar area, being able to see them work together and bring about an event is really great. But I think more recently, which I didn't actually know about until I met the person, was there was someone that spoke so in March earlier this year, we did an International Women's Day live podcast. And one of the speakers on the panel got in touch with me. We saw each other in June, just spoke and said, how are you? How's business going? And she said, oh, it's going really well. Actually, funnily enough, from that International Women's Day event you did, someone who was in the audience, we got to speaking, and they're now working within our team as our events manager. So even to see the sort of that small introduction of you're speaking, you're creating these spaces where people can network, people can connect, people can collaborate with each other, and then you're seeing that come into fruition of people are now sort of being employed by others, or people are collaborating with others, or people are volunteering, as we mentioned here, to support others. It's really great. But yeah, long term, to pick up the mic, within the next like 2 to 5 years, we see it growing more. So being able to directly support people who want to create their own podcasts. So whether that's through creating the space for them to do so, whether that's through using equipment and sort of bringing it to spaces. Because we know through one of the services, we have a service which we call the Spotlight Services, which is essentially it's the interviewing. So we do interviews, videography and photography at people's events. So being able to create those and support businesses, both big and small, because we know regardless if you're a big organization or you're a small organization, sometimes you're not always able to capture the content that you need from your event. So being able to support has been really great. But yeah, I think as well to add is that we want to also build. So this year we recently got into doing sort of mentoring. So we supported, as the founder of Pick Up Mike, I supported the Upgrade Yourself Festival from Somerset House. So was able to offer mentoring to young creatives aged 18 to 30 who want to sort of get into the creative industries and maybe wanted a bit of advice on how to do so, or wanted a bit of advice on their career path and their journey. So being able to offer that advice was really impactful. It was also interesting to see like people that I've met at other events who were just interested in like the creative industries, and seeing them being able to share like resources that we found beneficial that's helped us with them was really great. So definitely building on the mentoring and doing more sort of workshops and talks as well. So people that know me know that not only through the podcasting that I do like to talk, but funnily enough, yesterday, so the 18th of July to the date, was when I did my speech at my own graduation, and being, I think, I think a year on, especially, one of the things that I definitely realized from that was that I do like doing public speaking and doing speeches. So building up that, not only in the sense of doing it more for like at events and with sort of speaking at events and to young people about, or speaking to people in general about, the business or experience and things like that, but also being able to support people who want to also get into that, because we know that sometimes when it comes to like public speaking, people are a bit nervous. There's uncertainty and sort of like how to navigate that. And then just, I guess the final thing would be just, we know, especially with podcasting, for some people, they would love for their podcast to sort of be not all of them are necessarily wanting it to be their main source of like income, but some of them would like to sort of get paid work through their podcasting. So being able to sort of showcase through workshops how to do that, that's something that we've had to do ourselves over the last 3 years. So looking at how we can go from just, as I mentioned, we started out as just a podcast, so navigating that. But then once we knew the grips of podcasting and sort of the basics, and even sort of developing that knowledge continually, thinking about how we can build up our knowledge to then be able to turn it into a business, which we now currently are. So I think those would be the things that long term that I see us doing in the future.
That's really amazing, because a lot of dreams that we see these days, it starts with a thought, isn't it? Like, you're thinking of something, you see a need, that was it. You saw a need, like, let's do something about this. And look how far you've come. I think the audience will agree with me that you and your team, you deserve a round of applause. Absolutely. Because I can tell you, that just even sitting here, being able to share my story, this is the act of story sharing, because you never know, whoever listens, that will be impacted, that will be inspired, that will be encouraged. And this is it. And I know that the audience will be able to pick one or two things from what you said. And I'm really actually excited for the future for you, because I am definitely going to be watching the space. Definitely, this needs to be like an enterprise, where, and I like the fact that you're actually mentoring others as well, bringing them into the space. And this is what it's all about, impacting the world, and, just being that change, being a role model. And you're being visible. It takes a lot. It takes a lot, and then you just using your time to make that change. Like Tesco's always say, every little helps, because So thank you for that. That's just really amazing. I think that's about it for me for the questions for myself.
Well, thank you very much. And yes, always happy to share. Always happy to share my experience and my story. I think for our MCs of the month, it's actually been quite tough to pick one organization or individual that we could comment on, because there are a lot doing incredible work, especially within the field of STEM, to promote. So we're sort of doing it in like a different way, in the sense of we're going to speak locally to where we started from, Brunel. Then we're going to expand a bit more to sort of organizations that you can get involved with. And then finally, give a shout out to a previous individual. So we mentioned their business, but we didn't go into detail about the individual. So sharing an individual that you can follow and keep in touch with to stay in contact with. So speaking locally, or speaking to people that we've worked with and spoken to a lot, there are two that come to mind. So there is System or System UK, as you can find them on LinkedIn and Instagram. So they do a lot of work to promote women in STEM. They focus a lot on sort of encouraging more Black women and Black girls to go into the field of STEM and creating safe spaces for them to connect and network. They do things such as mentoring. They offer workshops. They have a picnic coming up to celebrate 2 years of their business. They also are hosting a brunch as well to do the same thing. And they do a lot of great work to sort of showcase that need for the field of STEM. We're actually working with them. So the week, literally next week. So not when this episode is released next week, but on the 25th of July, we're working with them to do an event speaking about sort of STEM and the creative industries, and looking at how those two are sort of linked and overlap. So we will be releasing footage from that, so keep an eye out for it. But yeah, I think another one to mention locally, as I mentioned, I was a STEM ambassador at Brunel, so it would be a shame for me to be talking about diversity, equity and inclusion, or speaking about the field of STEM without mentioning them. So STEM team at Brunel are a department within Brunel University that actively work to promote the field of STEM with young people, so they can go as young as reception to as old as a year 13 student. They do many different things, such as summer schools. They also do robotics workshops, weekly sort of like programs to support sort of the development of young people. As I mentioned, one key thing from sort of being a STEM ambassador that I really liked was the ability to share your sort of like experience with young people. So as everyone mentions, everyone's got their own story to get into the field of STEM. So being able to share that and speak to young people to let them know that, your grades and your experience don't determine sort of where you end up after university or even at university. So you're not limited by that is really great. But yes, wider, some organizations we think would be great for you to check out. We've mentioned one, they've been a MC of the month previously, so I won't go into too much detail about them, but STEM Learning, definitely would recommend to check them out. This is more, so specifically, as we've mentioned, Bami is a part of the Institute of Biomedical Science, so IBMS, but we would also recommend, especially if you are studying a STEM subject currently, a lot of you university students are able to join the institute related to their degree. So I studied environmental science for my undergraduate. There's an Institute of Environmental Sciences, which we were able to sort of, as a student, I was able to join the institute and sort of get access to the resources that they provide there. So yeah, specifically with discussing biomed a bit in this episode, the Institute of Biomedical Science would be a good one to check out. You can also check, because for some courses within the field, I know at least within the field of STEM, they're accredited by an institute. So you can also check and see which institute accredits your degree, and maybe see if you can get in touch with them, because as it mentions here, you can get support, mentoring, resources for career development, and sort of thinking about your path after you graduate. So we definitely would recommend them. And then finally, an organization that we've spoken about, but we're highlighting the individual, is Dr. Anne-Marie, and I'm probably going to butcher her last name, but Imafidon. She's the co-founder of STEMites, which is an organization that is dedicated to inspiring young women to get into the field of STEM and supporting their journey. As I mentioned, again, they have actually been a previous MC of the month, but all of these organizations we would definitely and individuals we would definitely recommend to just check out. Feel free to get in touch with all of them. As I mentioned, they all do incredible work, and if you are a Brunel student, you are able to get involved with the STEM team there. So yes, those are our MCs of the month. But we've now come to the takeaway section, where, as I always joke, I did say the last episode we are working on it. We are slowly working on getting a food sponsor, but I can't go into too much detail about that yet. But instead of giving you food today, we're going to be sharing words of wisdoms. Bami, we've spoken about a lot. We've dived into a lot of important topics, discussed a lot of important themes. But yes, if we had to summarize everything we've discussed today into one thing that people should take home with them, one key message, what would you say that key message should be?
Remember, you're your own cheerleader. You are your own cheerleader. For what we become in life, it starts with you. Understanding yourself, and know that your journey, like I said earlier, is unique. Walk your journey. Don't compare, because be your own competition, basically. And then I would say support system is really important. Find yourself a community of people that wants to see you thrive, that want to see you succeed. And make sure that, of course, it's vice versa. You have to be that for somebody as well. You pass on the baton, you pass on the torch for others as well. And I would say, look, life is not a smooth road, but in it, when you fall, you get back up again. That's it. It's part of the journey. The scars tells the story, doesn't it? So, and enjoy it. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you. And yes, that nicely puts us at the end of today's episode. Thank you, Bami, for coming on. It's been great to hear your story and to learn more about sort of the importance of diversity within the field of STEM, but also the incredible work that individuals like yourself are doing to address that and to promote it. If our audience want to get in touch, they want to find out a bit more about you, the work that you are doing, if they want to can maybe connect with you, what is the best way for them to do that?
I'm on LinkedIn. You can just find me as Bamidele Farire on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram as Bamicious, Bamicious, Bamicious on Instagram. Likewise on TikTok, and I am on TikTok as well as Bamicious, and also on LinkedIn. Actually, I just started a up space titled No Ceiling, Bam Space No Ceiling. And I think the word no ceiling speaks for itself into like where there shouldn't be any hindrances or any barriers to us reaching our goals, our potential, and our dreams in the professional space. So check that out as well. It's on my LinkedIn space. Subscribe to the newsletter. It's a weekly newsletter that way we just share our experiences. I think it's only just launched, and I've shared 2 articles already, and then one of them just introducing the space, and the second one talking about what does no ceiling mean. So if you want to learn more about that, definitely head on to that to go and read about it. Thank you very much for the audience, Jeffrey. Really appreciate that.
No, you're very welcome. And thank you, honestly, for all the amazing words that you shared. And thank you to you, our wonderful audience, for coming back for another episode of The Student Guide. If you like this episode, a like, comment, and subscribe is always appreciated. If you want to make sure that you don't miss this episode or any other episodes of The Student Guide, then we please recommend checking out, liking, subscribing, clicking the notification bell as well, so you don't miss out on that. If you want to receive some perks or support the podcast, please do make sure that you either sign up to our Patreon page, which is linked down below, or you can sign up to our YouTube channel membership, which is also linked down below as well. If you would like to also receive some merch, so as you may have seen, we have Pick Up the Mic merch for our different podcasts. If you would like to get your own merch and support the team, because we can't do this without your amazing support, then please do check out please do let us know. We have a sign up on our link tree that you can sign up and find out about the merch that's available. And finally, if you want to make sure that you support and learn maybe about the other channels that we've got, we have 3. So we have our anime channel, Centered in Anime, we have our gaming channel, Pick Up the Controller, and we have our sci-fi and fantasy channel with Joshua Morgan called The Two Maesters. You can find all of those on our main YouTube channel, and you can subscribe to them through there. But yeah, this is, we're going to now close this chapter of the Student Guide. We are slowly approaching the end of this season, so we will be letting you know what's happening next. I will say that we may have a surprise to announce by the time that episode our last episode for season 6 comes out, so do keep an eye on the space. But yes, we're going to close this chapter. Bye for now, and we will see you all in the next episode of the Student Guide.
Bye-bye.